Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Sean P back again. Today we're gonna do a quick video. It's not gonna be too long. After yesterday we did the Kendrick Lamar review, but this weekend marked the 50th birthday of the late great Notorious B.I.G., whom many think is one of the top five dead or alive or greatest of all time, if you will say. His legacy goes through really three generations of hip hop. You know what I mean? So today we're gonna do something quick. It's kind of like a discussion post, but we're gonna talk about how would the game be different if Biggie would be alive today? How would his legacy have changed? Would he have been as great the artist today as maybe we look at somebody who came from his time, like a Nas? You know what I mean? Or how would other artists be viewed, in his presence? You know what I mean? If he would have lived on. And then I'm going to go into my top five Biggie songs of all time, my personal five that I like. Top five with two honorable mentions. So I'm going to start out with talking, if Biggie would have lived, how would the game be different today? What would he see changed? Who would not be as great or as looked at as godly per se as they are now in hip hop history? Well, I think Biggie would have been even bigger because when Life After Death came out, he was on his way to being, bigger than big. You know what I mean? No pun intended. But I think that was not his peak. I'll just say that. I think he would have had at least another two classics after that. And I think he would have dominated well into the 2000s. I don't know how the game would have changed as far as the South, the Southern movements of hip hop and all the other players, like, how Eminem would have been viewed or come into the game, or some other players. But I really think that he would be a much larger artist because I think his run was just starting, believe it or not. He was only 24 years old. I mean, to give you a point of reference, like some of these younger artists, I don't think that, like some of these younger trap artists like Kodak Black and I know Little Durk. Little Durk's gonna be 30 next year. 30 this year, actually. I think Kodak Black, I think he's may not be mistaken. I think he's older than 24. And a lot of these artists haven't even reached their peak yet. Haven't even found their voice. And at 24, he was king of the world. So he's just on his way to being great. And I think he had at least two more classics. I could have seen a run similar to what Kendrick Lamar has done with the three classics in a row. Because Biggie had the formula. He knew how to reach the radio. He knew the melodic production at that sample-heavy late 90s, early 2000s, how that worked, and he worked well with that. And he knew how to get masterful features and own those features, too, with those artists. So I think his run would have only gotten bigger. I think Jay-Z would be great, but Jay-Z would not be what he is today. I don't think you would have had and it's revisionist history, but I don't think Volume 2, even though Volume 2 was pretty much, I would say it was in the works at the time Biggie passed, but that still would have been a big record. But I think you would have seen the energy for a Biggie versus Jay-Z type of deal, and more so than the Jay-Z versus Nas deal in the 90s, because Jay-Z was coming. There's no question that Jay-Z would be great, but the question would be, it would almost be a Jordan LeBron debate. Like, who's the really greatest MC, Biggie and Jay-Z? The interesting part is, where would Nas fit into all of this? And Nas kind of took that second spot after Jay-Z passed, no, I'm sorry. I apologize for that Freudian slip, but after Biggie passed, but Nas would have taken the spot that took the spot that Biggie had. You know what I mean? And I don't think Nas was ready for that spot, because Nas really wasn't a radio play guy. A radio play guy like that. I mean, he knew how to be a great lyricist. He knew how to make great deep songs and street songs and street stories, but he was not the commercial player that Jay-Z is or Biggie is. So Nas kind of, his legacy would have took maybe a little bit of a hit. He wouldn't be as looked at as godly as he was, because it would have been the Biggie Jay-Z thing, competition, and they had the commission in the works as well. So you were going to have Biggie Jay-Z, Cameron, Charlie Baltimore, and you would have all of them in a group, and Cameron may have even been bigger, because everybody at that time was blowing up off of Biggie's steam. I think Jadakiss would have been a bigger artist. I'm going to address the Bad Boy part of it too, because Bad Boy would have been totally different. I think Mace would have had a sustained career. I think Jadakiss would have been a bigger artist. The Lox would have been bigger at that time because they were blowing up. But what I do see is that I think that in the end of the day, Bad Boy would have broke up. I think Biggie and they would have only taken but so much from Diddy, and everybody wanted to get away from Diddy at that time. They would have went their own ways. I still think that the Lox and them would have went off back home with Swizz and to Rough Riders or what have you. But I think Jadakiss would have been big. Jadakiss would be more in the conversation of the King of New York, I think, because he would have done more songs with Biggie. You would have more comparisons to Biggie, I think. But I do think New York hip hop would have lasted longer. New York hip hop would have extended their run past the mid-2000s, probably into the 2010s. Because I think Biggie was lining up one of the greatest runs of all time. And I could have seen, people, I could have seen Biggie starting his own imprint and starting his own mogul deal. And I could easily have seen artists like Mace and some of those guys want to go with them. The guy whose career or legacy would have taken the biggest hit was Diddy, I think. Because No Way Out would have been what it was, but after that, I think all of the talent would have wanted to leave Bad Boy because I think at the time Biggie wanted to go ahead and leave, and he had his issues with Diddy. I don't think they would have stayed together as a team. However, I do think it would have been hands down. Biggie would have been the greatest of all time. Jay-Z would maybe still be in the top 5. Nas maybe in the top 10. Because Nas would not get the shine that he wouldn't have gotten the commercial shine that Biggie or Jay got. So Nas would still be in the shadow of those guys in a way, but I still think Nas would be, definitely a top 7 MC to GOAT of all time. But I don't think Nas would get the recognition of being, the greatest of all time as he is now, because he would have got overshadowed, I think, by New York hip hop. But it's an interesting debate, y'all. Leave your comments in the chat, in the YouTube chat. What do you think? Who do you think's legacies would be impacted if Biggie would have lived? You know what I mean? I think Biggie was just getting started. So I think a lot of guys' legacies would have not been what they are today. I don't think Jay-Z would be looked at as the greatest of all time, as the GOAT. He might be looked at as maybe top 3, top 4. I don't think Nas would have been looked at as the GOAT. Maybe top 5 to top 7. I think Jadakiss would have been looked at as a better, as greater, you know what I mean? Because I think Jada probably would have moved with Biggie. Maybe they would have started their own imprint or what have you. Jada would have put out more albums. So I think that's something, but it's something to consider. So there's that. So let's get to my top Biggie songs of all time. I'm going to start with my honorable mentions. I'm just going to let you know, I love street, underground storytelling hip hop. That's my thing, is hardcore, gritty, street energy rap. That's what I love. So this is more of a street-oriented personal list. Not too many radio records on here, even though Biggie's songs did get play on the radio like that. So my honorable mentions, I'm going to go Give Me the Loot and off of Ready to Die, and I'm going to go with What's Beef. Beef classic cut. Just that boss, mafioso persona right there. I love that. So I'm going to go with What's Beef as my 2 cuts. Give Me the Loot and What's Beef as my honorable mentions. My number 5 cut would be Warning. I love the back and forth, the story vibe. That's a creative ass song. And I just love the aggressive boss energy. You know what I mean? That is a boss record right there. That is some boss up shit. You know what I mean? 4, I would go with Big Papa. I think that was like the smoothest, like radio, like club cut. That's the ultimate party record. And then I would go, my top 3 would be Niggas Bleed. I just love that gritty, dark, street energy, that boss persona he got. Then I'll go, my 2 favorite cuts. Number 2, Unbelievable, off Ready to Die. Just love his wordplay, his flow, his off of that DJ Premier beat. And my number 1, Kick in the Door. That is just the hardest cut. Off of that DJ Premier beat. You could tell DJ Premier is my favorite producer of all time. But definitely Kick in the Door. Just that beat, that up tempo, and the way he just goes in on that song. I mean, he took shots at people. He even took some veiled shots at Nas on that record, believe it or not. So, yeah. So, honorable mentions, Give Me the Loot. Honorable mention was Beef. My top five, number 5, Warning, off of Ready to Die. Big Papa is my number 4 cut off of Ready to Die. And my top 3, Niggas Bleed off of Life After Death. Number 2 is Unbelievable off of Ready to Die. And last but not least, the number 1 cut, Kick in the Door off of Life After Death. Those are my top Biggie projects, Biggie albums. What am I talking about? You can tell I'm new to YouTube. My top Biggie cuts of all time, my top album cuts. And yeah, I mean, he created that boss up persona, man. Like what you see Rick Ross doing today, like that boss imagery, you know what I mean? That was Biggie before. Like that boss mafioso energy, he started that. He started even before Nas came with It Was Written, you know. But post in the comments. Let me know, what are your top 5 Biggie records of all time, and whose legacies would you think would be impacted the most if Biggie would have lived? Who would be bigger than they are? Would have been greater than they are? I think Mace and Jadakiss would have had stronger careers, you know. Nas and Jay-Z would not be viewed as what they were today. And I think Diddy would have suffered the most, because I think they would have left Diddy. Diddy would be more like what Baby is today. Baby from Cash Money, you know what I mean? He'd be looked at more as a producer that way, more than, if that makes any sense, you know, as to the iconic Diddy that turned into a legacy artist, really, in the end of the day. So all right, so that's all I wanted to come with today. 50, happy birthday, Big. 50 years old. He would be 50 years old today, and just want to give my thoughts on Biggie's 50th. And y'all enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I'll catch up with y'all later, all right? Peace.